Hello, welcome to Prajim Technologies. I'm Venkat. This is part 54, Reflection Example. In this session, we'll look at a practical example of using reflection. If you haven't watched part 53, where we have covered reflection basics, I would strongly encourage you to watch that video first before continuing with this session. Now, in this session, what I want to do is basically develop a simple Windows Forms application. If you can see a form here, the users will enter the name of the type, for example, system.string or system.in32 or system.console class. When they enter the name of the class here, they need to enter the fully qualified name. Once they do that, and when they click this button, discover type information. Now I want to list all of the methods in that class and all of the properties and constructors in the respective list boxes as shown here. And to do this, it's pretty simple. If you have got what we have discussed in the previous session, it's very simple to do that. And let's quickly see how to do it. If you look at this one, I already have a Windows Forms application created here, and I have created a form which has got a text box, label, a button control, and then 3 list boxes. And then when I click this button, that's when we need to inspect the type information and populate the respective list boxes. Let's see how to do that. Okay, we know that the classes related to reflection are present in system.reflection namespace. So let's import that fast. So system.reflection. Now what we want to do is when users run this application, they enter the name of the type into this text box. And if you look at the ID of that text box, if we go to the properties, it is text type name. Okay, so we need to take the name of the type from this text box and then find the type information and populate these list boxes. So let's see how to do that. So string type name is equal to, so users will enter the type name in that text box. So let's get that from the text box. Once we do that, we can use the type classes get type static method. Now we have covered the basics of this in the previous session, so please watch the previous session if you haven't already done so. So we get the type here, and once we have the type, you know what to do. It's pretty simple from here. So type T. So we got the type here, and now what we need to do, we need to get methods, properties, and constructors, and it's pretty simple. So all you do is t.get methods, and get methods will return method info. We have seen that in the previous session again, method info array. So method info array, and we call this, let's say, methods is equal to that. And what we need to do, we need to use a for each loop. So for each method info, and let's say method in methods collection, what we need to do, in this form we have this list methods list box, so we need to add that method information to that list box. So lst methods to the list box dot items, because it's the items collection, dot add, what we need to add, the name of the method. So I take the method object and then say method dot name. So now if we just run it as is, so what's happening here, we need to enter the type name, let's say system.console class. So we know the console class present in system namespace. When I say discover type information, we have an error here. Let's see what is that error. Okay, continue. Let's see, let's put a breakpoint and see why are we getting that error. So when we run this now, so system.console class, console console, and we click that button, discover type information. Let's say that. Okay, so type is null for some reason. So let's understand why is that type null, because we are saying type.get type, and this is why. Instead of passing the variable name, we hard coded that as a string. Okay, so that's a mistake. So stop that. It's a copy paste error. Pass in the type name instead of passing it as a string within double quotes. So now we run that and enter system.console class. So system.console class. So discover type information. You see that we get all the methods within the console class. For example, we have writeLine. Now writeLine is an overloaded function. So that's why you see it so many times. Now let's say I want the return type of the function as well within this list. All you need to do is, along with the method name, maybe I want the return type. So method dot return type dot name, and then you give a space, and then all right. So now when we run this, we should get the return type of the method as well. So system.console and discover type information, and you should see the return type of every method. And obviously for console.writeLine, it's void, so void writeLine. And for readLine, it would be string, so you should see for readLine it is string. Okay. Similarly, if you want, on the second list box, we want to show properties, and on the third one, constructors. To do that, it's a simple copy paste, except that you will replace method. Instead of get methods, what you will specify is get, what's the second one? We want properties, so we'll say get properties. So t dot get properties, and get properties will return property info array. So instead of method info, we will say property info. And this is extremely easy. Once you know how to get one specific, set of methods or properties, it's extremely easy for the other types. It's just the names are different. Property info, and this is going to be property, and this collection is properties. And what we need to do, instead of populating the list methods list box, it will be list properties list box. So list properties dot items dot add. What we want, a property will also have a return type. So property dot, I think it's property type. So if you're not sure, just hit the dot, and the IntelliSense will show you different properties and methods. And when you highlight here, look at that, property type gets the type of this property. Okay, so after you get the basics of .NET, it's mostly self-learning. You can learn it by yourself with the help of it in trial and IntelliSense. So .name, and then what else I want? I want the name of the property as well. So property name. That's it. So now if we run that, we should get properties as well. Let's do it for constructors, and then we will run it all at once. So for constructors, we use t.get constructors method, and the constructor info, and we will give the variable as constructors. And for each constructor info object, let's call this constructor. In constructors collection, what we want to do, and from the previous session, if you remember, constructor.name, we know that a constructor will have the same name as that of the class. So constructor.name will be of no use. So instead of that, when we say constructor.toString, the toString method is overridden to give us, what are the parameters that the constructor takes in, which is useful. So instead of all this, for a constructor, all we do is constructor dot toString. Okay, so now if we run this, and by the way, there's one more thing. It's not list properties. The list box is list constructors. So list constructors dot items dot add. So now when we run this, and maybe we give, let's say, system dot string class, discover type information. Look at that, it's got two properties, this many constructors and these many methods. And similarly, if you want, there is something called system.text.string-builder class. Let's say discover type information. Look at that, it has got so many. And I think it's actually adding all this when we have got a slide problem here, which we will correct now. System.console, when I say discover type information, system.console doesn't have an int32 property, I mean length property. So where is this coming from? The previous values are being retained in this list box, and to correct that, all you do is set them to empty whenever we start. So list methods dot items dot clear the items, and do the same thing with the other list. So we have list properties, so list properties and list constructors. Just clear them before you start adding anything. So now if we run, it should do. So system dot maybe text dot string builder, discover type information, we get that. On the other hand, when we go back to system.console, discover type information. All right, so it's working as expected now. So it's a pretty simple example where we are able to discover the type information at runtime and populate these list boxes. And remember, with this, you can, with reflection, it's not just that listing methods or properties or constructors. There are a variety of things that you can do. For example, when you say t dot, there are several Boolean properties as well. Is the type abstract? Is it an array? There are several properties and methods that are really useful for a variety of things. Okay, now whenever you have time, just explore the system.reflection namespace. It's really useful. All right, so on this slide you can find some resources for ASP.NET and C# interview questions. That's it for today. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.